Okay, so today we're going to talk about routing and redundancy, and this is as it occurs on the internet. Yesterday, we saw that the internet uses the internet protocol and IP addresses to communicate across shared internet. This out of the gate seemed as if it would be much easier than it played out to be. It's complicated, and with each new version, I'm going to continually use the word iteration. With each new iteration, which means version of you kind of trying to schedule week by week, whether you realized it or not, you were making different rules for how to go about this. And in computing, we call them protocols. So very much it's like sending messages and letters through regular mail, US mail. You have to have a return address and a sender address. Okay, so today what we're getting at here is this idea of like, okay, so we know that we have to have a sender and from, a to and a from on each piece of information. And on today's internet simulator, you're going to see that you're going to go through routers. So all over, I know that for many of you, the first time you've been introduced to the term router, you're thinking of the router, the internet router in your house. A router is something that will route information to in a given direction, and they exist all over the internet, along the cables, right? So fiber optic cables are laid, and internet packets are being sent, and they'll get up to a router, and the router will decide whether it will go on continue along path A, B, C, D, or maybe F, G, H, I, J, depending on how many cables are connected to that router. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, okay? So you're going to log into your Code Studio and connect to the same router as your group number, okay? And then this new version of the Internet Simulator is going to be, you're going to say hello to each person connected to the same router. And you'll do this, I'll be able to kind of watch over you and see that you're doing this, but you don't need to leave the one Zoom to do this. And before we do this, I'll just let everyone just kind of get a little familiar with it. Yesterday's lesson was directly connected to everyone else, and we could see all the messages. In today's lesson, we're connected to a router, which helps decide which message we receive. We can even take a look inside the router to see the decisions that they're making, okay? And please know that I can see all the messages that are sent and received. So keep it appropriate and stay on task, okay? And once you open the router, you'll see that there's router logs, okay? And you can view the messages being sent on your router. And then you can see the messages within each, step one, you open the log browser, and then this is what it looks like. So this tells you the time that the message went through, what router it went through, that it went through, and there's your two IP addresses. They're shortened here for purposes. So these both went through router 2. Okay. And then when you want to see show all routers, you can look at all router logs. And you'll use those logs to choose an IP address from each of the other routers. Send each person a message asking who they are, and choose one of the following questions. What is your favorite food? What is your favorite type of animal? What is your favorite color? And then be sure to respond to questions you get from people on other routers, not just your router. Okay, so this is a little bit hard to see, but you'll notice that here you have the from and tos, okay, and they have all the different routers on here. And then you can see when you open up all the router logs, you can see everybody's messages. So please, again, be appropriate. So here you'll see some of the messages are appearing multiple times. I want you to think about why that might be. Okay? And we'll talk about this. So next, you're going to pick someone on a different router and send 3 separate messages with your top 3 favorite movies or TV shows. After you send the message, open the router logs and find the same messages in the logs. Notice how these messages travel through the network. Did they always take the same path from your router to the other router? Look at the other messages that are being sent. Are there any patterns in the paths they take? And then what did you notice about the messages you sent in the router logs? Did they always take the same path from your router to the other router? And then we'll talk about these 3 terms. Okay. And then we'll do this in class. But a router and the purpose of routers allows for redundancy to happen. Redundancy happens because we want to build a fault-tolerant internet.